We don't need to take notes though?
Oh, you can take notes if you want, Julie. That's so up to you.
All right, thank you.
That's okay.
I do so many things online now. I'm just used to taking notes.
Yeah, go for it. Go your hardest. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on gut health and arthritis. My name's Bree. I'm the Health Promotion Coordinator for Arthritis Queensland. And with me today is the lovely Jess. She is our Health Promotion Manager for Arthritis Queensland as well. So as mentioned, today's webinar will be discussing the link between gut health and arthritis. And this is such a really interesting topic of research. I loved researching this content and learning so much about it. And I hope you really enjoy our presentation and get lots out of it. Okay. Oops, sorry. Just a little disclaimer. So this presentation does contain just general information and advice. We've done everything we can to make sure it's accurate and reliable, but don't use it as a substitute for individual treatment or advice. Go to your doctor or your healthcare team to obtain that individual medical or treatment advice. In spirit of reconciliation, Arthritis Queensland and Arthritis New South Wales acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So today we'll be discussing a few different topics around gut health, such as what is gut health and arthritis, how to ease your gastrointestinal symptoms, and the current research around the link between gut health and arthritis, and also eating for your biome. So what is gut health? Gut health refers to the health of your gastrointestinal tract, which we'll refer to it from now on as your GI tract. So your gut microbiome, which lives in your GI tract, is the foundation of good health. Good gut health occurs when you have a balance between good, which are the helpful bacteria, and the bad, which is the potentially harmful bacteria in our system. So now I'll go through some of the words that we'll be using today. So I thought it would be great to explain what each word means. So the first one is microbes. So these include bacteria and other microorganisms. Viruses are usually considered part of this group as well. The next one is microbiome. So this is the collection of different microbes in an ecosystem. Our body hosts lots of different types of microbiomes, and we actually have about 1.3 kilograms of microbes living inside of us, and they can be on our skin as well. So animals, plants, and other environments like soil also have their own microbiomes. Even buildings like homes, hospitals, your office, they all have their own microbiomes as well. And the last word is gut microbiome. So this refers to the microbes that live along our digestive tract. So they start from our mouth and go all the way through. The majority of our microbes live here, and most of them live inside of our intestines. So what is a healthy GI tract and what does that mean? So the community of bacteria in our gut, as we've explained, contains a mixture of that good and that bad bacteria. And as we already know, it's known as our microbiome. So we've actually evolved together with our microbiome over millions of years. And 1/3 of our gut bacteria is common to most people, while the other 2/3 is really specific to us. So it's really cool to think about this as our microbiome is actually like our own individual ID card. So a healthy GI tract plays a really critical role in our overall health and houses the largest number of immune cells in our body. So you might be thinking, how can good bacteria keep me well? Well, the good bacteria actually remove the bad bacteria in our system. So they get rid of that nasty bacteria that enters the digestive tract and prevents them from multiplying and making us unwell. So that good bacteria produces lactic acid and fatty acids, which actually lowers the acidity in our large bowel, making it difficult for that bad bacteria to over multiply and grow. So this helps keep a healthy balance of bacteria. So what else the good bacteria does? They actually aid in digestion. So the good bacteria break down fiber in our stomachs, which produce nutrients for the cells that line our bowel. And this keeps our gut really nice and healthy. The good bacteria also make vitamins. So we get most of our vitamins from food, but the healthy bacteria in our body make some too, such as certain B vitamins and vitamin K. And the good bacteria attack infections. So around 70% of our immune system is in our digestive system. You know, how cool is that? So when we have a virus, our healthy bacteria leap into action, aiming to neutralize those toxins that the virus makes, which means it can hopefully stop the virus from progressing and making us unwell. So a healthy gut microbiome is diverse and balanced, and having lots of different bacteria is associated with good health. A normal healthy gut microbiome includes a really, really diverse population of bacteria and other microbes that keep each other in check. So what are the role of these microbes? So certain microbes activate the immune T cells that promote or suppress inflammation in our body. So what these immune T cells are, they're a type of white blood cell that help keep our immune system fighting germs and protect us from disease. So in a normal healthy microbiome, this means that the immune system does what it's supposed to. So those pathogens are destroyed and the harmless good cells go about and they do their business keeping us well. But things can go really, really wrong when there's too many of those pro-inflammatory T cells and not enough of those anti-inflammatory cells to rein them in. So that's why researchers think a problem with the microbiome may play a role in inflammatory arthritis, where the body attacks healthy tissue instead of fighting the bacteria and organisms. So the gut microbes serve many purposes. They help form and entrain the immune system so they can jumpstart it into action. They help break down food and absorb nutrients. They regulate natural chemicals called neurotransmitters that communicate with our brain and nervous system. So these can affect things like our mood, our memory, and our sleep. And also the microbes help regulate hormones such as insulin to keep the body well balanced. So what's the link between gut health and arthritis? Well, there are several different factors. So in our GI system, we have an upper GI and a lower GI. So the upper GI goes from our mouth to our stomach, and the lower GI runs from the small intestine to the end of the large intestine. And when you have inflammatory arthritis, it can actually affect both the upper and lower GI tract. So some people with rheumatoid arthritis may experience stomach ulcers, bleeding, and inflammation in the upper GI tract. And then they may experience the bleeding, bowel inflammation, and infections in the lower GI tract. So with inflammation, the same chronic inflammation that targets your joints in arthritis may affect other parts of your body, including your digestive system. So for example, there's a condition called rheumatoid vasculitis. It's a condition that causes your blood vessels to be inflamed and it can impact your GI tract. So this condition may affect up to 10% of people with rheumatoid arthritis, and actually controlling your rheumatoid arthritis and reducing your inflammation can improve the symptoms of rheumatoid vasculitis. So there might be other coexisting conditions. So with fibromyalgia, this often occurs with other types of inflammatory arthritis. And if you have fibromyalgia, you may also have IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. And those symptoms can include stomach pain, bloating, gas, diarrhea, or constipation. And another one is celiac disease. So this may also be associated with inflammatory forms of arthritis. And with this digestive disorder, eating gluten can lead to damage in the small intestine and cause inflammation. And another one is inflammatory bowel disease, which is, we'll call it IBD. So this is more common in people with rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, and sciatic arthritis. So IBD is an umbrella term for two conditions, and they are Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And both of these conditions cause chronic inflammation of the digestive tract. Or it might be your gut bacteria. So scientists are also looking into the microbiome of the GI tract and how it relates to different illnesses. As we already know, our body hosts lots of harmless bacteria which keep us healthy. And when some of these become altered or unbalanced, it's called dysbiosis. So dysbiosis of our gut bacteria has been associated with the development of certain inflammatory conditions, such as rheumatoid arthritis, spondyloarthritis, and lupus as well. So in this slide, we'll be discussing other factors that may be also related to gut health issues and arthritis. So many people with inflammatory forms of arthritis find that they're more likely to have stomach issues than the general population. So for instance, people with rheumatoid arthritis are 70% more likely to develop a GI problem than people without rheumatoid arthritis. And there's several reasons why. So the first reason could be related to your medications and your side effects of them. So DMARDs, which are your disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drugs, or your NSAIDs, which are your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and corticosteroids. So they're actually known to cause digestive problems, including that pain, that bloating, constipation, and diarrhea in some people. And we all know that the NSAIDs can also irritate your stomach, and it's been strongly linked with upper GI problems. And these can include that bleeding, the ulcers, and inflammation of the esophagus. So it's really important to discuss with your GP and pharmacist about taking these medications safely to reduce any GI issues. So the second reason is that you may have an infection. So while DMARDs help calm an overactive immune system, they also lower the body's ability to fight infection. So as a result, bacterial infections like diverticulitis or infectious colitis may develop inside your GI tract. So these medications can affect how well you fight bacteria. So patients may end up developing infections. So being aware of the signs and symptoms of an infection and seeking help from your doctor can reduce it from developing. The next reason is that you may have an overlapping disease. So while we spoke about it in the previous slide, people with inflammatory arthritis may also have inflammatory bowel disease or celiac disease or autoimmune hepatitis. These can actually directly affect the GI tract. So people diagnosed with fibromyalgia may find that they have abdominal pain, they may have bloating or constipation or diarrhea. And some patients may be also diagnosed with inflammatory arthritis, then fibromyalgia, and also irritable bowel syndrome. So it can be really, really difficult to know which symptoms are related to what problem. So it's important to work closely with your GP and specialist if you have multiple conditions. Some inflammatory forms of arthritis can also affect other organs in the body. So these can include your stomach, your lungs, and your eyes. And a small proportion of patients may develop inflammation in your GI tract and may experience GI troubles during flares. Last one is that it might be your stomach all along and not your disease. So our GI tract has a lot of interaction between the environment, what you eat, what you drink, and your immune system. There is still a lot of research identifying if your GI microbiome might come into play with the development of your disease and other immune system problems. But in the next few slides, we're going to go into more detail about gut bacteria, its current research, and its link with arthritis.
Excuse me, Bree, what was DMARDs again?
So they're your disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. So a lot of people with inflammatory forms of arthritis will take DMARDs.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
That's okay, Julie. Okay, so now we're going to have a chat about the link between gut bacteria and its development in inflammatory arthritis. So a healthy GI tract plays a critical role in overall health, and a faulty immune system is responsible for the most common types of inflammatory arthritis. These include gout, rheumatoid arthritis, sciatic arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, and juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So we all know that genetics, the environment, age, and gender have long been recognised as factors in the development of inflammatory arthritis. But recently, scientists have learned that the bacteria and other microbes that live in our digestive tract and the gut microbiome are also a factor. So how does gut health affect these conditions? So it has to do with the way that microbes or microorganisms interact with the immune system. As we've discussed earlier, the microbes in our GI tract digest food, they make vitamins, they control the growth of cells that line our lungs, intestines, and other organs. But they also help teach our immune system the difference between harmless bacteria and germs that make us sick. So knowing friend from foe is super crucial because it helps our immune system decide when to attack and when not to. And these decisions are controlled by specific gut microbes. So let's now have a look at the current research around gut bacteria and arthritis. So researching online around the link between gut bacteria and inflammatory arthritis was really interesting. So there's new emerging research being done frequently, and it's an area that could hold some potential with learning more about the development of inflammatory arthritis. So what I saw was across multiple studies, they found that people with rheumatoid arthritis had an abundance of this bacteria, which was called Prevotella copri. I'm going to refer to it as P. copri just so it's easier to say. So people with rheumatoid arthritis, they had lots of P. copri bacteria when they compared their gut health to people without any forms of arthritis. People with rheumatoid arthritis also had low levels of a bacteria called bifidobacterium. So this is a really healthy bacteria which helps digest fiber, prevent infections, and produce healthy chemicals. So we really want lots of this bacteria in our GI tract. Another study, which was completed in 2015, found that people with sciatic arthritis had significantly lower levels of other types of gut bacteria and a far less diverse microbiome than people in the healthy group. So this is really important because people with really good gut health have lots of different bacteria living in their stomach. So people with sciatic arthritis had really low levels of different diverse bacteria in their GI tract. So this P. copri bacteria is also associated with other inflammatory conditions, and these include metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes, in addition to rheumatoid arthritis. So this P. copri bacteria must thrive in an inflammatory host environment. So these researchers also looked at samples from people with newly diagnosed rheumatoid arthritis, people that had chronic arthritis, people with sciatic arthritis, and also people without arthritis at all. And what they actually found that was within the gut microbiome, the P. copri bacteria was most abundant in people with newly onset rheumatoid arthritis compared to those who had chronic but treated rheumatoid arthritis, sciatic arthritis, and no arthritis. So in the future, this may be used to help identify those who are at risk of developing rheumatoid arthritis by examining their gut microbiome. So this actual same result was seen among other studies where a higher amount of P. copri in the gut microbiome is a characteristic of patients early on in their disease before the treatment has started. So reactive arthritis is also known to develop following exposure to some gut bacteria such as Shigella, Salmonella, Yersinia, and Campylobacter species. So this suggests that there's an overlap between bacteria and arthritis. So these findings suggest that certain bacteria may be linked to triggering that autoimmune response that leads to joint inflammation. So there are many factors, especially the overuse of antibiotics, smoking, stress, and certain foods that can disrupt our microbiome. So this can trigger an abnormal immune response and inflammation in the gut. An inflamed gut can cause problems throughout the body, as we all know. And this is because what happens in the gut doesn't always stay there, and inflammatory cells may escape into the bloodstream and travel to other parts of the body. So what was really interesting was to note that the microbiomes of people with sciatic arthritis look almost exactly like the microbiomes of people with inflammatory bowel disease. Other studies have also shown that people with rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile idiopathic arthritis, gout, and ankylosing spondylitis had these abnormalities and that less diversity in their gut microbiomes. So the loss of those protective bacteria means that the immune system struggles to regulate that inflammation. But the good news is that researchers hope to one day be able to identify those people at higher risk for rheumatoid arthritis or other inflammatory arthritis conditions by looking at their gut bacteria and either start treatment early, which is known to improve prognosis, or to potentially modify the gut microbiome in order to improve the disease outcomes. So there wasn't a lot of research looking at osteoarthritis and its link with gut bacteria, but some studies are suggesting that people with osteoarthritis have that dysbiosis in their gut microbiome, which supports the concept that there may be an osteoarthritis associated microbial shift that may be pathogenic. And pathogenic means that it's disease causing microbes. But there needs to have a lot more research on this topic because the current studies out there is very limited. But there are also some researchers who are looking into a leaky gut syndrome. And how that may trigger flare-ups in conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. So I'll go into more detail on what leaky gut syndrome means. So what is leaky gut?
I think we might have just lost Bree for a moment. Just give me 1 second. I'll see if we can get her back in. Just bear with me 2 seconds and I'll see if I can get my screen up to share with you all.
Ah.
Okay, can I just check, can you see the screen again and can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yes? Okay, perfect. I was just trying to get the right settings up. So luckily Bree shared her presentation with me beforehand, so I'm not sure what's happened to her. She might have lost internet briefly, so we can continue on with the presentation. And you can see the full presentation up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I think Bree was up to on the slide about leaky gut. It may be a term that you might have heard of before. So medical professionals sometimes refer to leaky gut as high intestinal permeability. So I'm just still adjusting my screen here, sorry. What this means is that the lining of our intestines are designed to absorb water and nutrients from our food, and it passes through into our bloodstream. So when people refer to leaky gut as high intestinal permeability, this means it lets more than water and nutrients through and is open to pathogens entering. So for example, that leaks into our bloodstream, which may cause issues. So our small and large intestines connect the stomach to the colon, and healthy intestines are naturally permeable. So this allows tiny nutrients to flow through their lining. Problems can start if the intestinal lining becomes damaged. So some medical professionals believe a damaged intestinal lining is too permeable. And this allows larger undigested food particles and bad bacteria to enter the bloodstream. So the food particles that link into the bloodstream are viewed by the immune system as foreign bodies, and this can cause an immune system reaction. The microbes that escape into the bloodstream may also cause an immune system reaction, and this can lead to an immune response that may cause inflammation to the joints. So it's important to note that gut microbiome composition can be affected by also our age, medication use, other conditions, malnutrition, our diet, and infections and stress as well. So leaky gut is a bit of a controversial topic, and it has very limited research around it at this stage. So keeping in mind that a small number of physicians believe leaky gut is the underlying cause of many medical conditions, but at the same time, many do not believe this theory. So leaky gut and its possible connection to arthritis conditions is not part of most standard medical school curriculums, as at this stage there's just not enough evidence and science linking leaky gut to arthritis or autoimmune conditions is just really lacking at this stage. So we just don't quite know yet that intestinal health is correlated with the health of the gut microbiome. Oh, sorry, I missed Bree's there's animations on that one, sorry. So how can you ease ease GI symptoms? So first things first, work with your doctor to keep your arthritis under good control, and report any signs of any GI problems to them right away. With potential GI issues associated with arthritis conditions, it's important to consult your rheumatologist, and if necessary, you may also be referred to a gastroenterologist who specialises in the area of the gastrointestinal system. And here are some more tips to ease your gastrointestinal symptoms. So reviewing your medications with your doctor. Bree mentioned that medications can be one impact on our gastrointestinal symptoms sometimes. So to help minimize your gastrointestinal side effects, you should work with your doctor and chat about how well you're tolerating your drug therapy on a routine basis. You can discuss tablet forms or injection forms of some medications, and always tell your doctor about any over-the-counter medications or supplements or vitamins that you might be taking. If you do smoke, trying to quit smoking can be beneficial. So research has identified that smoking is associated with gastrointestinal problems in the lower GI tract in people with rheumatoid arthritis. And it can also make many rheumatic and gastrointestinal conditions a lot worse as well. Also consider your diet. So a careful diet review may help you identify potential triggers of symptoms. And if you notice eating certain foods seems to cause symptoms like diarrhea or bloating or stomach pain, for example, tell your doctor, and they may work with you on getting that under control, and whether it is those specific foods, how you might avoid them, or how a dietitian can help you in understanding which foods are triggering certain symptoms, and how you can work your diet to avoid those foods. And we will touch on diet a little bit more in a moment as well. So also let's talk about ways to promote gut health. So there's currently no treatments for manipulating the gut microbiome to treat inflammatory arthritis conditions. However, early research suggests that there are several ways to maintain or improve the gut's overall microbial diversity and health. So first of all, number one tip is avoiding unnecessary antibiotic treatment. So antibiotics can kill bacteria that cause infection, but they can also kill normal beneficial bacteria. So taking an oral antibiotic can reduce the gut's microbial diversity and permanently change a gut microbiome. Patients that are hesitant to take an antibiotic can ask their healthcare providers questions around what will happen if I don't take this antibiotic? Is there another option that can help instead? And your healthcare provider can explain whether or not an antibiotic is necessary. So making dietary changes, most experts agree that diet can influence the immune system by affecting changes in the gut microbiome. A diet that emphasizes raw leafy greens supports beneficial bacteria that can produce chemicals to regulate inflammation in the body. And also fermented foods, so things like sauerkraut and kimchi may also be beneficial. And when you're making dietary changes as well, also doing your best to stick to them. So dietary changes can cause temporary shifts in our gut microbiome quickly, but permanent change may take months to years, but more research around exactly how long and how long we might need to continue dietary patterns is required. So exercise, regular moderate exercise seems to make positive changes to the gut microbiome, which have been linked to decreased inflammation and improving arthritis symptoms. Meditation. So meditation and mindfulness, stress and anxiety may affect the gut microbiome and vice versa. So meditating and practicing mindfulness is one way that we can also help to reduce the levels of hormones associated with stress and anxiety, which can help change the gut microbiome. Similarly, as we touched on before, smoking affects the gut microbiome, including microbes in the mouth. So we do know that smokers are at greater risk for periodontal disease, which is associated with rheumatoid arthritis and may be a precursor to it. Couple more tips here. Oops. Interacting with nature. So things like outdoor activities, patting pets and gardening can expose a person to rich microbial diversity and help train a healthy immune system. This is especially important for young children with developing immune systems. And consider taking a probiotic. So it's not clear that taking a probiotic supplement works by changing the microbiome, but the live bacteria in the probiotic may stimulate the immune system. It is important to note that healthy people do not necessarily benefit from taking a probiotic. Lots of people also ask about probiotic supplements, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach to probiotic supplements. What works for one person may not work for the next. So trying something, say for a month, and see how you feel. And if you don't get any relief, or if you're getting a bad reaction, definitely discontinue and try another kind. If you are looking for probiotics, it is important to consult with your doctor who can provide more advice. More specifically, looking at diet, we touched on briefly, but how can we sort of, I guess, eat for our biome? And we've definitely mentioned how diet can affect your microbiome. One of the, sorry, let me start again. Different bacteria thrive on different foods. So many types of beneficial bacteria absorb nutrients from leafy greens, vegetables, and other high fiber foods. So eating these foods can help populate the gut with more beneficial bacteria, because the more microbial diversity we have in our gut, the healthier we will be. Several studies have shown that a Western diet, so usually characterized by diets high in animal proteins and fats and low in fiber, tend to lead to a marked decrease in numbers of good bacteria in our guts. Across the studies, the Mediterranean diet is usually highly regarded as a healthy, balanced diet. It tends to be full of the beneficial fatty acids that are rich in both monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids. So these are usually referred to healthy types of fats. Also high in levels of antioxidants, high intake of fiber, and with a greater intake of vegetables than animal proteins. Several other studies have shown that the Mediterranean diet may also improve our weight management and inflammation. And we'll go into more detail on the Mediterranean diet in the next couple of slides. But experts are still learning about if and how permanent shifts can be made in the gut microbiome. So some microbiologists suggest that some permanent change is possible after 9 to 15 months of sticking to a diet. But others also believe that changes in the gut microbiome last only as long as the diet does. So definitely more research is needed around this to understand how long we might have to make sort of dietary changes and shift to new diets for those benefits to continue. So what is a Mediterranean diet? So over the past several decades, the Mediterranean diet has been widely investigated, one of the most researched diets, and promoted as one of the healthiest dietary patterns that reduces chronic disease risk in a lot of different groups. There have also been studies that show those who follow a Mediterranean diet have a lower rate of developing osteoarthritis and also reducing severity of osteoarthritis symptoms. The Mediterranean diet tends to include a variety of foods and isn't restrictive. So it tends to be quite sustainable for the long run, as you're not feeling like you're missing out on certain foods or food groups when consuming a Mediterranean diet. We all know that it's really important to get joy out of the foods that we eat. And so for many, the Mediterranean diet is a diet that people feel that they can stick to and sustain and enjoy as well. For some people, you may not want to adopt the entire Mediterranean diet, and that's completely fine. But looking for ways that we can adopt things like eating more vegetables, especially leafy greens, as we know they're good for increasing our microbial diversity, consuming less red meat and increasing intake of fish, as well as reducing the amount of highly processed grains that we consume, like white breads, and swapping this out for things like beans and legumes. So looking more closely at the Mediterranean diet and what it tends to typically include, it's usually based around foods like high fruit and vegetable intake, regular consumption of extra virgin olive oil, whole grain breads and cereals, legumes or beans, so for example, chickpeas, kidney beans or lentils, nuts and seeds, fish and seafood, as well as herbs and spices. So frequently asked questions around the Mediterranean diet. People often wonder, can they still include meat and dairy foods? So yogurt, cheeses, milks, and lean protein sources such as chicken, turkey, or eggs are also eaten in a Mediterranean style diet, but only in moderate amounts. Also keeping in mind that fat-free yogurts, for example, are beneficial due to the healthy bacteria content in them. Usually foods like red meats and sweets and processed foods are only eaten in small amounts. And things like processed meats, so our deli meats, bacon, ham, salami, and those sorts of foods are usually limited to rare occasions. Another frequent question around the Mediterranean diet is around alcohol. So typically wine, so red wine, is a traditional part of a Mediterranean style diet. However, it's typically only consumed in small amounts and with meals as well. Some more frequently asked questions. So why is a Mediterranean style diet so healthy? And this is because it has a good balance of healthy fats. It's high in fresh foods and has lower levels of highly processed foods. Also, another key feature is it's high in fiber. So this can make the diet filling without providing excess calories. It's also very high in antioxidants, which has a huge role in reducing inflammation in the body. And as I mentioned, the Mediterranean diet is really one of the most studied diet there in research. And there is evidence that it can be beneficial for a range of different conditions. So heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, our mental health, and some cancers, as well as arthritis, of course. Just a little bit more to, I guess, display in a different way is this pyramid of the Mediterranean diet. So as we mentioned, a Mediterranean style diet tends to be rich in anti-inflammatory properties. So these are, if we look at the foods at the bottom of the triangle, such as olive oil, nuts, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, herbs and spices, are all of the anti-inflammatory foods. So the food pyramid recommends basing every meal on these foods as they're rich in anti-inflammatory properties and can help reduce joint pain and swelling associated with arthritis, as well as promoting good gut health. The Mediterranean diet's rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So foods like fish, and particularly oily fishes like salmon, tuna, and anchovies, are abundant in the Mediterranean diet, and they're rich sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which can improve our joint health, our joint mobility, and assist in reducing joint pain. It's suggested to consume these foods often, so at least 2 times a week. As we've mentioned, this style of diet is low in red meats and processed foods, as well as refined sugars. So these foods may be associated with inflammation and worsened arthritis symptoms in some people. So eating too much of these foods may alter the bacteria that live in our gut, and that alteration may have the ability to interact with our immune system. And as we've noted, the Mediterranean diet is rich in antioxidants. So these are seen in fruits and vegetables as well as whole grains. And these foods have lots of vitamins and minerals such as vitamin C and E that can help strengthen our immune system, reduce stress in the body, and protect against joint damage. And these foods also feed the good bacteria in our gut, so can help with reducing inflammation. I think as similar to quite a lot of different treatments in arthritis, it's important to note that everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. So what works for one person may not work for another. But adopting different features of a Mediterranean diet and taking steps to improve our diet quality as a general guideline can help promote overall health and potentially alleviate some of these symptoms associated with arthritis.
So I am sorry, I think my Zoom kicked me out. I don't know what happened.
That's okay. Welcome back, Bree.
Thanks for holding down the fort, Jess. I appreciate that.
Did you want to finish the summary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can finish it. All right. So I know this webinar has been really, really content heavy. So we thought we'd just summarize it up into some really good points to finish off the webinar today. So the first one is people living without disease have a rich microbial diversity in their GI tract. And this means lots of different healthy bacteria that live in their stomach. The second one is people living with inflammatory forms of arthritis have reduced numbers of gut bacteria, so not a rich or not a diverse bacteria population living in their GI tract. And the third point is people who have early onset rheumatoid arthritis or about to develop rheumatoid arthritis had an abundance of that P. copri bacteria living in their GI tract. So this bacteria decreased when people started treatment or have been treating their arthritis for some time. Number 4 is that people living with sciatic arthritis had similar gut microbiomes to those who live with inflammatory bowel disease. The 5th point is that people living with inflammatory forms of arthritis may also have GI issues to reactions to medications. They may live with an infection or have an overlapping disease like irritable bowel disease. And the last point is ways to help ease your GI symptoms. So the first one is reviewing your medications with your GP or specialist. To stop smoking, review your diet and adopt some of the changes in diet with the Mediterranean diet, to start moderate exercise, interact with your with nature to build your microbiome up, try meditation and mindfulness, and chat to your doctor or dietitian around probiotic supplements. And finally, so the connection between arthritis and gut health is in a really exciting area of research. So while we're still learning more, taking care of our gut can be really beneficial for managing arthritis symptoms. So by eating a healthy diet, using probiotics, we can support a healthy gut microbiome. So remember to always consult with your healthcare professionals for personalized advice. By looking after our gut, we may improve our arthritis symptoms and our overall well-being. So if you need support or guidance with your diet, it's a good idea to consult an accredited practicing dietitian, which is an APD, and they will ensure you're receiving adequate nutrition advice to maintain your good health. So you can actually visit their website down below to find one that lives near you as well. And also, I just thought I'd finish up and say that you can actually get subsidized visits to a dietitian by getting a chronic disease management plan, or you may know it as a GP management plan from your GP, and that allows you to have 5 subsidized visits to any allied health professional. And that is it. That is our webinar on gut health and arthritis. So what we'll do now is I'll stop the recording and we can help answer some questions.